me. Hi, boy. How far is it to Camp Crystal Lake?
Good to Camp Blood, ain't you? God damn it, Ralph. Get out of here. Go on, get.
Jason was my son.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing around.
You heard it up top. The school bus just parked and we are ready for summer vacation. That's right. We are taking a trip to Camp Crystal Lake because we're talking the one, the only Friday the 13th with your hosts. I'm just gonna do Colin then.
I like that. I'll be Counselor Mike.
This is a little known young actor named Kevin Jakin.
Oh man, this is my second favorite Kevin Bacon horror movie after Tremors.
That's right.
Shout out.
We're a little bit more of a Tremors heads. I'm excited to get your
Absolutely.
Kevin Bacon thoughts. But Kevin Jakin, you only did one movie before this, of course, National Lampoon's what's that movie called? Food Fight. What the fuck's
Animal
that movie
House.
called?
Animal
House.
Yeah,
Thank
That's
you,
right.
That's right.
And
In
now
about
you're
4
here
years,
with us, though.
I'm going to be dancing in that
That's
town that doesn't love dance.
Oh,
It'll be great.
God, what a career you've had.
Seriously. Incredible stuff. But yeah, we're here. We're back. It's week 2 of Spooktober. As you know, we always talk the spooky stuff. Last episode was The Exorcist, Go back and listen to that for a fully detailed discussion.
I remember it like it was yesterday, recording that episode.
Absolutely.
Or hated it.
Yeah, we'll find out. I don't know. I'm not even sure.
If we can break kayfabe for a minute here.
We're going
just
to take
to
off
say,
the hockey mask just for a second.
Yes.
There we go.
Take off the burlap sack. We're not recording this in October, but we are, in fact, recording this on the 13th of a month. Not the Friday the 13th.
Dun, dun, dun.
Wednesday the 13th.
Wednesday the 13th. Wednesday Addams would love it. I'm sure.
But a much less scary title, Mike. Wednesday the 13th. I don't know.
Yeah, much less scary. Less of a cultural kind of staple. But this will come out on the 10th. And then that Friday, this October, this Spooktober has a Friday the 13th, which is why we ended up covering the first film in the series, the original, the oft overlooked Friday the 13th. No number, sequel, no one goes to space. So, yeah.
And of course, last year, or not even last year, 2 years ago, we talked about Halloween, the other seminal slasher franchise of the 80s.
Absolutely.
So now we're talking, maybe its imitator, you might say, Friday the 13th.
Well, very true to point out.
Yeah.
But also important to point out for this podcast, Jacob, you've gone a little spooky in your past, a little spook crazy. And when we did Halloween, you watched all the Halloweens.
We raised hell.
Did oh my God, when we did all the Hellraisers,
that was rough.
Love it.
I'd rather watch Revenge of the Fallen.
All the Hellraisers. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But important to point out, we're just talking the original here. Like Mike said, no part, no space. I enjoyed you throwing out.
Yes. We have done a general episode on Friday the 13th, the franchise, a couple of years back, and you can go ahead and look that up. But that naturally devolves into what Jason is your favorite and this and that, and it has less to do with kind of the first movie. So we figured we'd shine a spotlight on it for the upcoming holiday.
Yeah, I think this movie in particular is very interesting. Of course, because Jason, as we know him, doesn't really appear. And so I'm interested to talk about that because the killer in this movie is, of course, not Jason. And
spoilers
that
for
fascinates
1980 classic.
Well, it's interesting because we can't watch this with the context. We can only watch it with the context of what the franchise would become. Obviously, this is a franchise that is synonymous with a giant hulking man in a hockey mask.
With a machete.
And this movie is not
a
that
zombie,
at all.
Jacob, maybe? Question mark?
Maybe, yeah. You can't kill him.
He escaped hell, so who knows?
Yeah, has a worm in him. We know that, yes. And again, does go to space.
It was very cool when he goes to space. But this is an interesting movie, especially because we can only look at it from the context of we kind of grew up with it being about Jason. We can't really look at it from the eyes of audiences coming into this. But it is an interesting look at, let's say, the first of a franchise, the same way we kind of talked, praise on John Carpenter's Halloween. This is now a look at another thing that started a long-running franchise, and we'll discuss, properly soon, how we how it does its job, I guess.
Not the madness of what it is, but real quick, Mike, what is your history with this first film in particular?
I honestly think I had never seen it all the way through. And I just
Really?
kind of knew, it was Jason. You watch the Jason movies, and this wasn't that. So this
Right.
was kind of fresh. I did watch it twice because one time I was a little distracted. I'm like, maybe I didn't really get it, and we'll talk about it. But I watched it twice for this, and I
Sure.
have some thoughts. But how about you, Colin? Do you grow up with this, seeing this? You know?
Yo, I think I probably pointed this out in our Halloween episode, or maybe in that Friday the 13th episode, as you said. Go back and check them out, Normies. But I really didn't do slashers as a kid because they really did scare me. And I had a real bad experience once watching Halloween for the first time, where a couple local kids were pranking my house because my dad used to do this dumbass thing where he would just leave out one bowl of Tootsie Rolls and say, take one. It's not like
Classic.
that.
Mhm.
Yes,
Dump the whole
classic
bowl in
prank
my
bad
bag.
house.
Yes.
Yep.
So we were like getting like egged and stuff like while we were watching it. It was just like too scary and too much.
Right.
This series, I definitely did not see this one first. I think I saw Jason Lives with some cousins and was nervous as an older cousin put it on. And the younger cousin was like, hey, if I can watch this, you can watch this. I remember being
Right.
like, yeah, right, yeah, I'm not, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that movie's essentially a cartoon. So by the end of it, I was like, oh, this is crazy. I kind of like this. And then really enjoy Jason X as well. But this film, I think my first exposure to it is the opening of Scream, where, of course, it is a trivia question to keep Drew Barrymore alive. Who is the
Yeah.
killer in Friday the 13th?
That's right. Trick question. Yeah, that's right. That might have been the
I'm
first
gonna
time I
get
was
ya.
made aware of that. And then there's a Friday the 13th game. There's like an Easter egg where you could find like the sweater and stuff. People were streaming that game. Like, so
Yeah.
the whole twist of this, I think it's just kind of been a thing that's floated out there, But Jacob, how about you?
Yeah, for me, my background, I mean, Normies, if you listen to this podcast, I'm probably the least spooky boy here. Like I don't not like horror movies, but I wouldn't say I'm a horror fan in the same way that maybe you guys are, or even Joe, our old co-host. I'm probably the least spooky boy, but I come at it from I'm learning about these franchises, like seeing all the Halloweens. I'd only seen one or two of them at most. So seeing the whole series was very illuminating.
Then you're like,
for
oh,
me.
druids, interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, I'm kind of revealing these blind spots that I had as a younger person. So no, I had never seen this movie. I'm trying to think which Friday the 13th I've actually seen. Jason X, I've definitely seen.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Takes Manhattan or
Jason
New York.
Takes Manhattan, yep.
I think I've seen
much like
scenes
the
from
Muppets.
that.
He in fact
Yes.
takes Manhattan.
I've seen 2, 3, like for sure. I can't remember the titles, like 2, 3, X. That
2
kind of
seems
thing.
like
that's Baghead.
Baghead, and then
Yeah.
Hockey Mask and the 3.
Mhm.
I
That's
feel like
my
I've
favorite,
seen,
3D.
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel
yeah,
like I've seen
3D,
at
yeah.
least some of those older ones with Jason, the classic image of Jason.
Mhm.
But this one I had never seen. I'd only heard about, and of course I knew the spoiler going in, which is why I'm so fascinated of like audiences sitting down in theaters in 1980, seeing this movie for the first time, having no context of who Jason Voorhees is, what this movie is. It just fascinates me.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting study, So I say we just, cut right to the bone of this, and we'll jump right into it. I guess right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us because we're talking Friday the 13th here, like we said on Normies Like Us. Here's the thing, guys. Like we said, we're not using machete right now. We're not using our hockey mask. We're talking, in fact, early slasher film. Totally different than the rest of the franchise, but not totally different than a couple other slasher films, right, Mike?
Yeah. And as I was watching this, I kind of looked at the date, and it's like, okay, 1980, and then we did Halloween 2 years ago, so like 1977. Clearly, they were like, okay, Halloween was a smash hit, and we're gonna like pick another spooky holiday, Friday the 13th, and we'll just capitalize on that. So then I went further back, and I'm like, well, I know Black Christmas inspired Halloween, and that's 1974. And then I'm a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, which is also 1974. And oddly enough, they have the same release date, October 11th, 1974, for Texas Chainsaw
Wow.
and Black Christmas. The U.S.
You'd seen
release
a
date
double
was a little bit
feature on that
later.
day.
Yeah, but internationally, you could have watched them both.
Can you
So,
imagine?
weird timeline. So Black Christmas to Halloween to Friday the 13th. Texas Chainsaw's
Yeah.
kind of on the side here, but it's still
Well,
pretty big.
I was
So many
wondering-
holiday themed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chainsaw Day, obviously.
You can see the evolution of the what would become the slasher genre
Yes.
or subgenre. What I'm interested to know is, now obviously this is not the first movie about a group of teens out in the woods having sex, doing drugs, and then getting
Mhm.
killed one by one. I don't think it's the first movie to ever do that. Maybe like Texas Chainsaw definitely had elements of it's a group of teens,
Promiscuous teens smoking dope kind
yeah.
of thing.
I mean, the Cabin in the Woods. I should know this, but when is Evil Dead?
Evil Dead is 81.
82? 81. Okay, 81. Thank you, Mike.
And then
Sorry.
Nightmare on Elm Street is 84. So that's kind of where we get our
Yeah.
lineage here.
Yeah,
So
74
I don't know,
this
it might be.
obviously-
It might be Jacob. I don't know.
Yeah, and it really set that template at least. And obviously this is a very much a cash in on the success of Halloween.
Mhm.
And if you read, I know, Colin, you might know a little about the making of this movie, but I did read a little bit about how essentially it was just shot on very, very cheap and then made a lot of money in theaters. It's one of the most successful independent films ever made just because of,
absolutely.
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. So check it out, Jacob. You say inspired by Halloween. Literally, director Sean Cunningham hires a screenwriter to say, like, just come up with a slasher idea. Before it's done, he puts an ad out in Variety that's like, who wants to buy the next Halloween? I mean, he's like,
Right.
we need to make this now. And like we said, it is the next year. So it is being made concurrently, essentially, and stuff. I mean, it is
What's the
absolutely
closest
shameless.
summer camp to Burbank or wherever they filmed this?
Yes,
you know?
right.
Get in the car. But
Yeah.
of course, it costs like $500,000 and it ends up making millions of dollars.
Yes,
So
like
it is
59
one of these
million, I believe.
things.
And if you
Yes,
adjust for
and-
inflation, it was essentially shot for what would be about 4 million today.
Mhm.
But if you take, if you're adjusting its gross into, it's several hundred million is what it made. So
Sheesh.
several hundred million of today's dollars on a $4 million budget.
Yeah.
That's
That's
incredible.
a paranormal activity kind of thing.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
wild. Yeah.
And obviously
So-
they used, all no-name actors other than Kevin Bacon, who hadn't broken out in a big way yet.
Right.
But yeah,
It's interesting to look at this as the beginning of the franchise because we kind of know the twists, going in, and it is a very, 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 very slow burn. Like I gotta say, up until the last 20 minutes, I think this is one of the most boring fucking things I've ever watched.
Wow.
I'm sorry if that's harsh, but it's.
It's
and
just,
I
I'm
watched it
loving
twice.
first reactions here. Okay.
I watched
wow.
it twice just to be sure I wasn't being too hard on it. And the first 2/3, it's pretty boring.
I somewhat agree with you. I don't think it's a very good movie. The thing about it is, obviously they're copying Halloween. Halloween was directed by John Carpenter, one of, if
That's
not
like
the
peak.
greatest horror director of all time.
Yes.
Sean S. Cunningham is no John Carpenter.
No.
There's no
no
Corey
disrespect
Cunningham
to him.
either.
Oh, wow, Mike. So
Sorry.
check it out. Sean
Yeah.
Cunningham ends up really not doing much noteworthy stuff. He does a movie called Deep Star 6, which I like, which is like a monster movie and kind of like his biggest return to horror. Doesn't really like it. He didn't like doing it. This guy, Steve Miner, who is executive producer on this film, he's basically Gopher on this first movie. He's like, I'll do anything. I'm jumping around. I'll fill in any role. He's the writer and director of 2 and 3.
The next,
He
right.
like creates what the idea of Friday the
Okay.
13th is.
And Sean
So
S. Cunningham
it's-
kind of stays on as a producer more in
Yeah.
name only just because he's making
Yes.
that money, right?
But Jake,
Huh.
when you're saying he's no John Carpenter, it's like, yeah, no way.
No.
Like it's not
Um,
even close. Yeah.
I didn't see
No,
one
but I
cigarette
would
smoke
say-
plume in this one.
Yeah, it's a really, at times amateurish film. It's again, it's
Yeah.
a low budget indie made in 1980. It's not the greatest filmmaking in the world. However, even though I think it's objectively not a good film, I do kind of love it because mainly because of the third act, the twist, essentially the last half hour, 20 minutes.
Agreed.
It
cat
just
fight.
gets so wacky and so wild. And I thought the beginning was okay. Like I was into it, getting to know all these different teens. It drags a lot in the middle. And it really
Yes.
lost my interest because I was into it for like the first half an hour. And I was like, okay, I like this setup, classic setup. and then it just kind of goes on too long, which is crazy. It's like a 95-minute movie, and it feels too long.
Yes, that is true. It does feel long for an incredibly short film. Most of the things I want to talk to you guys about are literally just like questions like that I had while watching the movie, not necessarily while I was paying attention to it, but I was definitely like, I wonder if the guys went to summer camp, and I wonder if they've ever played Strip Monopoly.
Oh man, yeah, who doesn't? No, yeah, Boy Scout camp, right? No, I've been to summer camp.
Well,
No, Mike, no, I hope not.
No, I did go to summer camp. It was Boy Scout camp. There was no Strip Monopoly, however. You know, you do swim. You know, you had to get your swimming badge and whatever, make a fire. You know,
That's
so
cool.
I did some light summer camping. It was probably definitely, you know, no one was murdered, but yeah, you know, the whole thing.
Did
big
you
mess hall.
tell scary stories? Did you watch horror films while you were at summer camp? Did you watch Sleepaway Camp or something like that?
No one was doing scary stories. There was no acoustic guitar by the fire. You know, there's s'mores and stuff, but it was like always scout related activithis. So either a merit badge thing or a team building thing, cooking, you know, you got to cook on the fire, like that kind of team building activities. It wasn't like
right.
this. But did you ever go to summer camp? Like Jacob?
Jacob, did you go to summer camp? Yes, please.
Well, yes, I did. In fact, Normies, I don't know if I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I also was in the Boy Scouts as a young lad, a teen. And I maybe was in it longer than you were, Mike.
I was far less committed.
Crossing my fingers, neither of you guys were molested. I'm just like, I just want it
so
so
far,
bad.
so good.
Please. Okay, good.
There's a reason I left. No.
But I did, in fact, go to, I camped a lot as a young boy and a teen, and in my Boy Scout troop we would actually go camping one weekend a month every month for the entire year. So I would camp 12 plus times a year for years. So I was camping in the woods a lot, and in the summer I would go to a week-long camp, a Boy Scout camp called Seven Ranges Scout Reservation in Ohio, if you've heard of it, Normies. And in fact I went there every year for like 5 or 6 years, and so much so that when I was 15, I was a counselor there, and I worked there.
Oh wow!
Most of the summer, yeah.
Wow,
Mike, were you ever a counselor or anything? I was never a counselor. That's so cool, Jacob.
I shouldn't guide people's lives. I should not be trusted with that. So no, I never did any counseling.
No, me
I've been
either.
in counseling, but you know. How about you, Colin?
Yes. No, but never. Please.
In fact, this camp was so fun for me that I just wanted to be there all summer and also do counselor things, which means basically
smoking drugs,
teach merit badges to kids.
Basically means hook up in the downtime.
Yeah. Right.
Unfortunately, with the Boy Scout camp, they did have there were female counselors, but not very many. But it was more like, but there were rumors and stories and whatnot of hookups between, fraternizing in the off hours.
Like a Girl Scout camp being in the distance.
It's across the lake. You sneak a boat.
There were female counselors at that time. They weren't involved with the Girl Scout, because Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, the official organizations, they're not really.
Right.
They're two different things.
Right. So you're not selling cookies.
No, we're selling popcorn.
That's right.
But there is, of course, Boy Scouts of America has made a bunch of changes in recent years, and now it is actually like a intra-gender thing. Like girls can join the Boy Scouts, because Girl Scouts at the end of the day is different than Boy Scouts. Not to start ranting about Boy Scouts.
I wonder if do you think it's just called like BSA now, like Boy Scouts of like they don't want to say boy anymore, probably.
I'm not sure about. I'm not sure what it's called.
Scouts of America, I think. USA.
Unified
Scouts of America.
Mike, I like that. I like that a lot, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, they did change in recent years due to one, losing money, and wanting to be more accepting, and more
scandals.
People joining means more money. Yeah. Scandals, right. But I have mixed feelings about my time in Boy Scouts, but I enjoyed a lot of it. I mean, it was fun hanging out with my friends that were also in Scouts. There's a lot of downsides. I don't always agree with their morality or their ideology of the world, because they were very religious at times, very kind of, you might say, conservative values, especially in Ohio. But I had a lot of fun at summer camp, and actually the camp I was at looked a lot like the camp in this movie. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. The threat of overly conservative values is not existent in this movie. But before we get there, Colin, that's
a police
officer
does say some stuff about the devil's drug.
Right.
How about you?
important to say, Mike, Jacob and I also grew up on lakes. So I think that kind
That's
of
right.
also just kind of gave us the whole I'm so used to being in a canoe or just like wearing swim trunks with your clothes because you're gonna like eat lunch real quick and then like fucking get in that water and like horse
Right.
around with people.
Yep.
I sent you guys the link to my camp today because I looked it up and I was like, oh, it's
Yes.
still alive. But oddly, it was a sleep camp. It was a go away to camp, but it was school sponsored. We went with I believe my junior high. And my brother did it his year as well. It's an entire week you're away at the camp. You sleep there. My father came. He was like one of our guardians for the night or whatever. I was never a counselor. That would have been so cool. I wish, dude. And I loved it. I had a great time. I love doing shit like that. So
it is interesting to think about us growing up having experiences with some type of summer camp, because I think now it is less common and it's almost like in pop culture, summer camps only exist for people to be murdered in. Like if the average knowledge of summer camp
kids are still
young
going
kids have
stuff,
now.
but-
Hopefully
Well,
they're still going.
and like
Seven,
you, Mike,
yeah.
well, we
Go
just didn't tell scary stories. We would do more like they would do like talent shows and stuff a lot. But like
Yes.
Jacob, at your Boy Scouts, were they doing like around the campfire?
Yeah, they did all that. I mean, they did talent shows, they did singing songs, they did ghost stories, like the whole 9 yards. And it was a
ghost
week-long
stories.
camp. So you would come on, I think, a Sunday, and then you would
Yeah.
leave like the next Sunday. So it was like a whole 7-day thing. And Seven Ranges, I mean, it's one of the most popular Boy Scout camps, at least in Ohio or in that area. I mean, but you would stay with your troop in a campsite. The adults would come. They were kind of like the guardians and stuff. And then each troop, everyone would eat in a dining hall together. So there's this big building that's the dining hall.
Yeah.
And then there would be evening activities and stuff. So there's a schedule you could follow, and then you would be doing merit badges and stuff during the day. You could go swimming. The swimming lake looked very much like the dock, and everything looked a lot like the dock in this movie. And yeah, it was a good time.
Man,
nice.
take us back. Let me get murdered by a woman in a sweater.
Yeah, please.
I'll take it for a fun week. Man, like fucking playing volleyball, eating a dog, hooking up with some girl, and then I get an arrow through my head. That sounds fine, actually.
Perfect weekend, actually.
Yeah, I shot rifles and shotguns there as like a little 12-year-old kid. I was doing archery. I was doing swimming. I mean, there's all kinds. They had, and I'm sure it's still around today, and it's probably even better because they've probably modernized certain things. But yeah, it's a great time. I always think now, spend some time.
I bet they teach kids drones and shit. I bet drones are such a part of like kid hangouts now. I don't know why, but I always think that because they're just so easy to buy and shit.
Yeah, and like film your skateboarding with this. But
yeah,
it's interesting.
We did wilderness survival merit badge, so we were building shelters in the woods and whatnot.
Hey, do you guys still have your badges, by the way?
I'm sure I do somewhere. I mean, not to brag or anything, but I did make it to the rank of Eagle Scout, which is the highest rank. And you can only do it before your 18th birthday. If you don't make it by your 18th birthday, you can never become an Eagle Scout. And
there's a lot of work. You made it out unscathed, dog. Some time out to you, dog.
There's a whole drama there where some adults in my troop had it out for me and didn't want me to get Eagle Scout. It's a whole thing. I won't retell that now, but
vendetta. Yeah. Vengeance is a theme of this movie, so and if those teens had some of the skills that you have, Jacob, they might have made it out alive.
Would we have enjoyed summer camp in 1958, which is when this film starts?
That's right. I forget. We're starting in 1958, but it seems like
a
summer
little
camp
frog
really
boy
doesn't change.
Drowns. No, it does not.
No, it's just the counselors hooking up.
Yeah.
But there's an incident that happens in 1958. 2 counselors are murdered. It's a POV shot, so we don't know who the killer could be. And then that happened in 1958. And then it's just present day, and we're off to the races.
Now, again, with the Halloween comparisons, this is like almost exactly like the flashback in Halloween where Michael kills his sister in a POV shot. Yes.
Yep.
Now, this film, again, Jacob, you mentioned the cheap budget. Now, of course, they did not have the Steadicam ability, which is one of the things that, of course, makes Halloween, the first film, an immortal classic. That is one of the best shot films of all time.
Right.
This is mainly shot with Handycam, just handheld style.
Yeah.
It adds an interesting aesthetic.
Yeah, it does feel very indie. When I'm watching it, I'm like, you could do this with a cell phone now. Like the amount of resources they had to pull together
Oh, for
just to
sure.
make this thing. It's kind of astounding that they made it. So I give them a lot of credit. It is an important film, but you know, Sam Raimi was still prototyping his 2x4 at this point too, so they didn't even have that. You know,
That's right.
It was
That's right, Mike.
yeah,
right. It was certainly a lot harder to make independent films back then, and even using film. Yeah, like, do you understand the process of shooting film, exposing it properly so that it's not completely black or completely blown out, and then you can mess up something in the camera, get your film back weeks later or months later, and it's entirely ruined, which is something that Colin and I experienced in film school, right?
Yeah.
So
All the time.
it's a
shooting
very
on film is
finicky
difficult.
medium. Yeah, especially
You
in an
never-
independent shoot.
Yeah, no, you never are seeing, like when you look through the viewfinder of a film camera, it's just a mirror, but what you're
Right.
seeing isn't your image. What you're seeing in the room isn't the image. You have to
Yeah.
know what
If you're
what
shooting
the
on
light,
a Bolex or something like that, like,
right,
you really
the
got to
speed
know
of your
your shit.
film. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to know your shit. So the fact that they pulled this off, one, credit to you, because we just have it so easy now. But
That's right.
You have to
And
imagine
I will say,
these takes are mostly what worked, Mike, is what is in the film.
yeah. There's some takes where a dead body is like definitely breathing, and you're like, that's the only one they got. That's the only one we got.
It's like,
Sorry.
hey, you know
Yeah.
what? Sorry.
again, there's some
This
stuff
one's
that's
exposed.
not so great in here. I will say there are some shots and some moments in this movie that I do like. I think
Mhm.
are like interesting shots. And then there's a lot of stuff that looks not very well shot. And I'm like, man, why do they shoot it like that? Or actors giving not very convincing performances and
Well,
whatnot. Yeah.
That's interesting. You know what I like the most about this? Can I give my perviest take I've ever given on the podcast
geez.
before we really dive into
Disclaimers,
the
yeah.
content of it?
Kevin Bacon in
Disclaimers.
a Speedo.
NSFW, do not listen to this at work right now. I think this film is sexier than like modern pornography is, which is very much like unnatural looking people now doing very violent acts most of the time. Whereas this is a film that's mainly about people like smoking weed and like being very chill and hanging out, wearing fabric so loose that both sexes' genitals are just sort of like on display and like out and about.
Right.
They're hanging out. They're having a good time. People are smiling and giggling during like sexy scenes. Like I watch this and I'm like, this is a hot fucking movie. This movie is like good.
No, you know, I had a thought along those lines, where I'm watching this and then I'm thinking about Ty West's X, and I'm like, X isn't just Texas Chainsaw. It's 50-50.
Oh,
This
yeah, 100%.
Friday the 13th and
100%.
Texas Chainsaw. I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
when
you're
they're
right.
playing the guitar in the cabin and they're having fun and stuff, I'm like, whoa. Like, so that was really
Right.
cool to see kind of those two movies put together and in a film that's very much about, you know, the adult film industry and this kind of stuff. So
Definitely when
apt
you
point.
Yeah. In the swimming scene, when you have a young, hot stud named Kevin Bacon, pre-Footloose, young 22, 23-year-old guy
Mhm.
in great shape, they're like, definitely throw that guy in a Speedo. Let's get some shots of his body.
Like let's get those things out and about. And it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and he gets the
Um,
only like sex scene proper in this is
Yeah.
him and that his
Right.
girlfriend or whatever. So they're like, yeah, Kevin Bacon, screen time.
And they're like
Yeah.
kissing in the car in the drive up with that other fucking asshole, the fucking class clown guy that
Yeah.
I'm very mad we didn't get to see get murdered.
Mhm.
There's
He's the only one
there's
who had a
some
skill that would have helped him.
characters
He could shoot an
Yeah.
arrow.
that I found really annoying. This, especially the class clown guy who luckily was like one of the first people to die.
He should
Because-
be in Animal House, not this. He's in the
Yeah.
wrong movie.
Yes, that's funny. That's good.
I would say
but-
some of his pranks would classify as probably sexual assault today.
Well,
like when he
Frank.
pretends
Also,
to drown
saw it with a
so that
deadly
he can-
weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things. That is a problem with this movie in general, is the characters. Like it doesn't feel like there's a clear main character, really. Like there is, like by the end, but it just kind of meanders between these different moderately interesting teens. Like there's no focus on anyone. We meet the one girl who's a hitchhiker. I'm like, oh, this is our final girl.
What up?
And then she's
Yeah.
just
What I
like
like
no.
an intro.
Yeah.
I don't mind the twist. but
Alice
it's-
is
actually like that because I
interesting,
was
but, yeah.
expecting her to be the final girl, the Jamie
Sure.
Lee Curtis, and then
Yeah.
she dies before she even reached the camp, which I think is a interesting kind of twist on that.
But did they do it on purpose? Because they spend so much time with her in the town. Like, is it a misdirect, or did they just poorly structure a film? That's all.
I'm not
saying.
sure. Yeah, because there are some like little things in here, some misdirects that I like the local crazy guy who shows up. One of my favorite parts of the movie is
Classic.
just this old guy. You're gonna die here.
It's got
Look,
a death curse. A
If
death
I
curse.
opened my pantry and a fucking skeleton man walked out and told me how I was gonna die, I would find a gun, regardless if there was one there, and kill this fucking crazy
What I
Ralph
love
guy.
about this
Get out
guy-
of here.
I like how he walks out. There's a death curse. You're gonna die, and he just hops on his bike and rides.
Bikes
home.
away.
Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
What the hell just happened?
It's like
yeah, that
something
guy's
Jigsaw would do to you.
great. Right, it's
But I like that because it serves as both a foreshadowing kind of ominous thing and also sort of a red herring where you're like, well, is this guy the killer? Like, if you don't know about, obviously this is, if you're seeing
it's
this
presenting
live
itself
for
as
the
a
first time,
whodunit. You know.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't know who's killing people. You don't know who Jason Voorhees is. You don't know who Pamela Voorhees is.
Well, no, and
But-
that's
but-
a problem I have because it is set up very briefly. It's like, oh, you didn't hear about what happened? Guys driving into the camp. Yeah, 58, 2 people were murdered. 57, some kid drowned. That's the only hint we get to the backstory of our killer for the whole movie. There's no more
Right.
clues. We don't hear the
Well-
name Jason Voorhees until the end.
No, the kids say, sometimes it is called Camp Blood, and they kind of rib at each other,
Right.
which is kind of the only indication that they seem to know that something was up in the past, but otherwise they seem pretty loosey-goosey about where they're at.
Well,
There's
all
not
the
a mystery the
locals-
audience can discover.
Yeah,
Like, there's not a
the
mystery
locals
for you
are
to
telling
figure
him
out.
to stay away, and all the kids are just blowing it off like, freaking locals. What do you know?
Classic setup, but you
Yeah.
know, there's nothing that could lead you to discover the answer for yourself. Is the
No.
problem, I think,
But what I love about this, the twist of it,
No.
is that it's just so out of left field.
Right.
And I mean, it's like, if in Halloween, if you find out in the end of the movie that it's Michael Myers' mom that's killing people, not Michael Myers.
Right.
It's just
Have you-
so
Yeah.
wacky.
Have you guys seen Sleepaway Camp? Do you know
I've
about
not
the
seen
famous
Sleepaway
twist in
Camp.
that film? Okay.
No.
Jacob, have you? Okay.
You can spoil
I
it.
will never. No, because
Oh.
I don't want the listeners to know. It is
Okay.
one of the most important twists of all time for this genre. So I
Wow.
think that film, again, really capitalizing on this one, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's an important element of these films, is to have the wild out of nowhere twist. Again, Halloween is so refined. You don't hold it against John Carpenter just being better than every trope that he's basically defying and defining.
Yeah.
No.
that
I think they are
that's
doing
a
their
lightning
best
rebuttal.
here. And again, there are some shots and you're like, well, this is nice. We got a nice cozy camp vibe going on. That's why I kind of liked it to begin with. I was like, okay, these kids are all right. They're having fun and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, in the middle, it just kind of slows down and you're like, all right, we get it. Like, let's pick up the pace here a little bit.
Yeah, because they throw in the owner guy, the mustache kerchief man, who is the wildest look of anything I've seen in a movie.
Yes.
And then he's like
Mike-
hitting on the main girl, and it's like maybe he could be the killer. He's kind of a creep. Like they're
Hey.
trying to set up a couple people that it could be, I guess.
You're
Right.
actually a really good artist. Mike, watching
Yeah.
this guy, all I could think the whole time was like, because this is an 80s movie when it was released. It was made in 79, but to me it
Right.
feels so 70. And
Yeah.
Mustache David coming out, the fucking guy here. I was watching
Yeah.
the whole time and all I could think was, I would have done so good in the 70s. I would have done fucking, if you took
Man.
me now and threw me back there, man, I would fucking clean up in 1970s.
Yeah, it's
That's-
too
you
tough
know,
right now.
I was thinking about it because I was like, this guy, I like his look actually, but people don't really look like this anymore. They don't style their hair or like have mustaches like that anymore. But like, it's a very 70s, 80s look. But I'm like, he's kind of pulling it off.
He's got
It's
the
the
jorts going.
reveal. It's the
Yeah.
reveal in The Simpsons where Ned Flanders takes his shirt off and he's ripped. Like, and
Yeah.
it's just like, oh wow, nerd up top, hunk down below.
Yeah, he's
It's
a
He's like
very
chopping
wild
tree
combo.
stumps. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this hot older guy who might be into one of his younger counselors who owns the
Yeah.
camp. Like, I like it.
But maybe even a worse kill than the class clown guy, because it's a combination of off-screen and on-screen, oddly enough, in that it's just kind of poorly shot and you don't really see what's happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's
And he
out.
has, like,
he's
2
out on the
scenes.
town for most of the movie. He's coming back in this like
It's
rainstorm.
raining. Yeah.
And his death is very similar to the hitchhiker girl death, where they killed
Mhm.
before they reached the camp and everything. So
yeah.
Right.
yeah, I
Which is
didn't like it.
cool.
yeah,
And it takes him out of the running for the 2 options we have, crazy guy and him, I guess, at this point. But
right.
I do want to shout out something I do like with this movie. And, again, this is my favorite special effects horror artist ever. This is a Tom Savini joint.
Tom Savini.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, dude.
some of the stuff we get with the arrow through the neck and stuff. There are some, like, the throat cuts are good. Like,
Yeah,
the
the
effects are
makeup
good.
and the effects are really good. Obviously, Tom Savini, that's one of the big strengths of the movie for sure. Yeah.
There's not many, but when they are there, those are good. The axe to the face, that's very good effect, especially for the
Really
time.
cool.
Like, so good job, Tom Savini, crushing it as always. So that's kind of one of the highlights. If you're a gore enthusiast in the horror genre, check out there's an early Savini joint. So just go check it out for that reason alone, or at least look at the kills or whatever.
Yeah.
Side note, anyway. I just like Tom Savini. he did Dawn of the Dead. Come on, man.
Yeah. Zombies.
But yeah, so it's kind of meandering. It takes a long time in the middle.
Trying to think of what else to just fucking shout out. Yes, please.
Like, really, what do you talk about? Yeah, it's just the camp setting was nice. I appreciated the storm coming in to create, like, different texture.
Yes.
To break things up, but it just drags. You could be 20 minutes leaner.
Part of the problem is, I mean, it's only 95 minutes long, and they don't do very well of, like, a very good job of sort of getting to know all these different characters. You have all these different counselors. I mean, you have Alice, Adrienne King, the main girl. You have who's like this innocent artist, I guess. You have the jokester
wants to go to
guy.
California. That's all we know.
Yeah, she wants to go to Cali.
But the rest of them feel so interchangeable almost, where it's like they're not given their own personalities. They're just kind of there. We don't get to know them very well.
There are, during the strip Monopoly scene, one of the girls goes to the bathroom, and then I believe it cuts to Kevin Bacon having sex with his girlfriend, and I was so sure they were the same girl. I got extremely confused.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's not personality being made with and again, I think they're like, we're just doing a Halloween ripoff. They don't need to be, so that it does hurt the movie.
Right, but you're getting to know these characters. Like, you need to really, they should have been characterized better.
Yeah,
it's not a very sophisticated movie. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of movies that have taken this formula and done a lot more with it that have come out in the last 40, 50 years, 60 years.
Right, I mean,
damn, how long ago was
Pumpkinhead version of this? But 1980 for this. But like they try, like with the hitchhiking girl, like, all right, I know you've hitchhiked here to do this summer camp job. You have a dream. You like working with children. I'm like, oh, I know about you, and now you're gone. And then the next most I know about someone is that you're a good artist, and you have to go to California. That's it. So the characterization not great. But the final act, should we just jump to the final act, right? Like, cut right to it. We
put our sweaters on.
Yeah, put on our sweaters. We'll be right back. We're going to talk the twist. The real highlight of this film right after this.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're talking Friday the 13th. And we said we're about to jump into sort of the end here. We're going to talk the twist. I'm going to reveal real quick because I want to talk about maybe a lesser known fact. The twist is it's Pamela Voorhees. It's the mother. And we get these great speech. We'll talk about that in a second. But we get a moment where you hear voiceover from Jason that's like, kill them, mother. Kill them, mother.
Yes.
Now, supposedly, his name was Jason. Urban legend is the composer actually sampled Kill Them, Mother to ma. That is what is actually happening. Now, of course, whenever I do it, I always do ka.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
To me, it almost sounds like someone breathing. It's like,
yes.
Right.
Like
I have
exhaling.
seen the hardcore Friday the 13th fan. They will be the Kima variety. Like, if you're chukaing, you'll get in trouble. So I think the Kima has been adopted.
I'm not hardcore enough of a
no.
fan, I don't think.
I watched a YouTuber review it, and he said, and I know Mom. I was like, all right, apparently you know more than me.
Well,
so
again,
truckers and Trekkies, right?
Yeah. It's something
I
that's
guess.
pretty much cribbed from Halloween, of like having some kind of signature score or something that accompanies the killer. Obviously, Halloween has the incredible soundtrack written by and performed by John Carpenter, which is much better. But
the maniac.
But that is something that stuck with this. That sound effect stuck with this franchise for the long haul. And some of the music in this is really good. And like at the very end, I want to get to the very, very end, but there's like a really nice, soft kind of 80s chord progression. Like synthwave.
Like,
this is my favorite thing.
I was literally like, am I watching Twin Peaks right now? Like, that's what it sounded like.
I downloaded that song.
Did Angelo Badalamenti write this?
That's so funny that we all went to that. That's
great. and it works for where that ends up going too, because you're like,
And then it
"This is
zooms out
chill."
on the lake. Yeah, that's like
Yeah,
a
it's
good
gorgeous.
ending, actually.
I love it.
It's like, oh wow.
She's in the back of the truck driving away from Leatherface. It's like, oh, you did it, great job.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
I have some
Leatherface
thoughts
is
about the very
driving.
end too.
yeah, oh no. But
I do have
which
some
they've done
thoughts
that.
about the very end that we'll
Please.
get to as well.
Yeah, but
too,
first let's
because-
do this big twist,
yeah.
because we someone shows up to the cabin, all the teenagers are getting killed. It's just Alice, correct? Alice, the artist who might have to go to
Alice.
California. If you're not happy
Help,
by Friday, I'll
help.
put you on the bus myself, Alice.
Here's the thing. What
Yeah.
is her relationship to this camp owner? Like,
I
I think
think
they're
they are
hooking up.
having an affair, is my understanding.
Yeah.
because there's
Yes.
also some of these other, like, I feel like the one of the other counselors is also hitting on her throughout the movie. Am I wrong about that, or was that a different girl?
No,
Or
No, they
different
all
guy.
have short hair. I don't know.
Yeah.
the Bob, hard to tell.
During
But,
the Monopoly scene, I think they're like, there's something like where the guy that's
Oh,
playing
yeah,
with him,
yeah.
it's like, oh, it seems like he's into her as well. So
that's like the
I don't know.
goofball guy, right? Yeah, he's kind of hitting on everybody
yeah,
though.
Dan Marino jersey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Dan Marino.
Jersey, man.
So,
Dolphins.
But yeah, they've all been killed. Kevin Bacon got an arrow through the neck. We get a
Awesome.
copy of the Halloween knife shelf with arrows. This time we get a nod. To
Real
that.
quick,
Yes.
before
Yeah.
you get to this, Mike, do you have a favorite kill?
The arrow for sure.
For sure.
Yeah,
The
it's just
arrow.
so slow
Here's the
and-
thing about the door arrows guy,
Yeah,
which I think
Mhm.
is Dan Marino.
How did that happen?
that's Dan
T-shirt guy.
Marino. Yeah.
Yes. How did a middle-aged woman pin this guy to a door off the ground using like 3 arrows? That's what I
How
want
did
to
she
know.
push one through a bed?
Yeah. How
Right.
did she throw somebody through a window? She's
All
very
great
strong.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the power
All
of
I've been
revenge.
doing since 1958 is powerlifting.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, Pamela, your biceps.
Her-
Yeah,
her
that's why I wear the
hides her
sweater.
muscles.
Takes her sweater off. She's a fucking six pack.
She's
She's
just
so
jacked.
ripped. You're like, oh
That's
my
it.
God.
Damn. Yeah, that's it. 100%. So yeah, it's
That's
her
it.
power scaling is high, but somebody does
Yeah.
show up to the
Yes.
cabin in a Jeep. Alice thinks that, it seems like a nice old lady. Like, hey, who are you? I'm Pamela Voorhees, old friend of the whoever's. And
I
they
used to cook here.
embrace. Yeah, hey, I'm saved. But it turns out, no, because we've seen that Jeep before. But we do get this
Yes.
cool villain speech. And this is where we get, okay, here's everything we need to know. Because at this point, especially in 1980, you're like, what the fuck is happening? So she
Right.
gets her villain speech if we want to kind of set
The
that up.
villain speech. It
Well, I
is
wanted to
the
ask you guys
greatest.
if you like this reveal of Pamela Voorhees, of like how they reveal that she's the killer kind of slowly, right? Because she's like, everyone's dead there, everyone's dead. She's like, I'll check it out. And then slowly Alice is like, oh wait, something is not right here. This lady is weird and like something's
Yeah.
not right.
She's like, oh, so young. How could they have opened this place again? You know
They
what
were
happened
making
here.
love. They were making love when he died.
Yeah, so
Well,
Colin,
I
why
mean-
does she want revenge? Can you kind of explain the speech or motivation a little bit? Too?
Totally. She. I think I have it here. You know what? Let me.
If you have
Yes, I
the
do.
text. the
His
whole
name
Did you
was
thing.
know?
Jason.
Did you know a young boy drowned this year? This camp was created. The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason. His
Yeah.
Love
name
it.
was Jason.
His name was
Uh,
Jason.
And
He
this
was my
is
son. I worked here.
here's the thing, because
Mhm.
I think this is the moment. This is the junction where everybody down the line gets this puritanical fascination with slasher films. Because if you think about it, Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis's character in
Mhm.
Halloween, smokes weed. She's a virgin, but her and her friends' plans that entire night are kind of interrupted by babysitting because they want to fuck. They're trying
Mhm.
to figure out how to fuck while doing their jobs and invite
Right.
boys over.
Yeah,
and
you watch the
The
kids
lead
for 30
girl in
minutes.
this,
Yeah.
yes, everybody in this smokes pot too, and yes, the ones who are having the most sex are getting killed. But like we just suggested, I think Alice is having sex with the guy who fucking runs this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, the last thing that we see in the Monopoly scene is it's strip Monopoly, obviously, and it's getting to the point where she's about to take off her shirt, and then it ends, and they're like, and the guy's like, were you really going to go through it? And she's like, I don't know, I was thinking about it.
yes, that's good evidence too. And then I really think it is this speech from Pamela of you were having sex, so I'm punishing you. Essentially, is what she's saying.
Mhm.
The loss of her son here.
Hmm.
That really just codified this conservative veneer that needs to be used in reviews and critiques of slasher films that I've really never appreciated. And I think it's led to a lot of people parroting that trope where I don't really even see a trope in the first place.
I think it's it's something that people had, people had an interpretation of after the fact. Like John Carpenter was not trying to make like an anti-sex, anti-drug movie.
And would never.
Right.
He was really just trying to make a movie about essentially Jaws, if Jaws was like a human, right? It had really nothing to do with about like, it was this conservative values.
That is brilliant, yeah. But it's just like, here's how teens be. They smoke weed and they want to be promiscuous all the time. So he just...
So all that came after that sort of interpretation of things. And there have been movies since then that really hammer that point a lot harder than these early ones, for sure.
Well, and I'll also say this, Jacob, I think the role of this series in particular, I know we all just agreed you don't really get to know these characters, but I don't think any of these characters are particularly villainous or deserving of what Pamela is inflicting wrath upon them right in this revenge. Meanwhile, Friday the 13th going forward, all the other films start to do this thing where it's like, he's the biggest dirtbag ever. He's smoking weed and grabbing his girlfriend's titty, and you can't wait till Jason cuts his fucking head off. And it's such an interesting thing to twist, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I think the closest thing to that is this prankster guy who, by the way, did fake drowning to get like a girl to give him mouth to mouth.
To grope a woman.
Yes. So I was okay with that guy dying.
Not appropriate. Yeah.
Absolutely. See it hell, buddy.
And he shot an arrow at her too when she was standing next to the thing. Unsafe activity.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's an automatic depiction of Native Americans when the cop shows up.
That's true. He said he'd be killed.
Native Americans. It's almost like that's what they're in trouble for. Jacob. He goes, oh, geez.
Yeah.
Which was a funny scene,
but they're not really painted to be, like completely immoral or like they're
just immature teens.
Yeah. But then Pamela's motivation is clearly like, that's why the kids were fucking around and my son drowned. So all fucking around must die.
Yeah. Yes. What I take from it is that she's gone so crazy in the years since her son died that she sees these counselors as the same counselors from like she's not differentiating that these are different people. She just sees counselors at this camp and that's what caused her son to die. So she's just, she's lost it.
At the very
least, it would take me so much energy to kill 12 people, though. Like, I just don't have it in me at this point. I can't imagine an old woman having it in her.
1958, what she's been working out, first of all, to have that energy, Right. We learned about vitamin C. People are doing vitamin C at this time, so there's a lot of advances in health.
The sun, it's good for you, baby.
Yeah.
They're just figuring out that, like, smoking cigarettes is bad for your health, turns out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Oh, God.
At the very least... Pamela wants this camp to be shut down forever and will kill anybody associated with bringing it back. It's hard to fully understand her motivation. I think that's what makes her really fascinating. And I think if there's anything that should be rebooted, it's nothing. But after that, you could redo like a prequel. There's so much here that we're only scratching the surface of with Pamela Voorhees, kind of with how bizarre she is.
Mike. Peacock has greenlit a series by Brian Fuller, the guy who did the Hannibal series, called Camp Crystal Lake. That will be sort of a Pamela-oriented story, it seems like, of her time as a cook there.
I like that because...
a great villain. Like, she's fascinating.
Yes.
She's super fascinating.
And it's so off-kilter to not have a giant guy in a mask, but just have a regular-sized, old, like, not old lady, but like middle-aged, 50s, something like that.
In a sweater.
Be the killer. And the fact that they did make a Friday the 13th reboot in like 2009, but it doesn't include Pamela Voorhees, I think that's stupid.
Oh, I love that film though. It has so many.
Great.
It opens with that whole stuff and a woman going crazy, and then of course later Michael Myers style, she does see his ghost, and I of course kill them all, Jason.
Yes. Well, I do want to talk about the ultimate ending. So there's a big fight.
Fight. We get here's the thing. I made fun of Laurie Strode for having questionable decision-making skills at times when running from Michael, but he's a giant murdering killer guy. I get it. I'm gonna freak out. Alice knocks out Pamela Voorhees several times that
Right,
could
with a
finish the
pan.
job and does not.
Well, she does
If
eventually.
I
right?
saw
Eventually.
the bodies hung up, Mike, like the arrow and stuff, I would think she was working with someone else. I would run out of just like fear of loss of control of the
Damn.
situation.
That's the
I
thing
think.
is this one-on-one fight confirms my problems with her. Pamela killing all these people off screen in these unconvincing ways, and then having this one-on-one fight where she can barely hold her own against this team.
She needs to be the Hulk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like someone else is obviously helping her.
I've got it figured out. This is the new conspiracy. Internet, get ready. Get your video essays fired up because this is where we're at. Okay. Old guy, crazy guy knows shit goes down at the camp because it's collusion with the cop and Pamela. So the cop goes to scope it out. The cop's doing the killing. Pamela goes to finish the job for, theatrical
Interesting.
effect and fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the cop's in on
Well,
it.
who's
more
Jason's
believable.
dad, Mike?
Yeah. Oh, shit. Oh, man. I think we've got it.
Wow.
I think we've got it.
All
The
right,
cop is
we're
in on it.
remaking Friday the 13th faithfully, but with some changes.
Yes.
Um,
But yeah, so we get a decapitation. Is it with a machete? Is that
incredible
where the machete
decapitation.
comes from?
There's just a machete, as we all have by our canoes when we're
Well,
camping.
that's
well, they
why it
foreshadow
becomes
it
a
earlier
staple.
because they kill that. By the way, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure they killed a live snake.
Oh, they
on
killed a real
screen, which
snake.
They
definitely would not fly
100%
today.
Definitely
killed a
did.
real snake, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes,
I was like, that. I'm pretty sure they had, animal safety standards in 1980, but as being an independent film, maybe they got around it somehow. But
Nobody
Milo
not
and
fly
Otis
today.
and a
Yeah.
snake were inside a basket and thrown over a river.
Right.
They said,
Yep,
let's do this. And we get this struggle. She gets it. She cuts her head off. We get almost a supernatural moment of the headless horseman. I mean, her hands go up in sort of like a horror.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
It's one
First
of
of all,
like,
very.
the most
yeah, go ahead.
iconic decapitations in horror history,
Yeah.
It's a great decapitation. Very funny to think this girl could just one shot
Swap.
completely chop her head off, but it must have been a really sharp machete. I don't know.
And like when moms can pick
Kill
up
that
cars,
snake.
when the adrenaline's pumping through you can do
Yeah.
some crazy stuff. But so she gets out into a canoe and just drifts out until the morning, and that's when we get
Yes.
our favorite song. Oh my god, I
And
love it.
Well,
Is that what
before
you guys
that,
would do, though?
I wanted to talk about this incredible scene of little Jason coming out of the water and grabbing her,
Well, that's
pulling
yes,
her down.
yeah.
Yeah.
She
because
goes
the
out,
music
she's
is
like,
lulling us into
Yes.
safety.
You think it's over. You think it's over. All of a sudden, little baby Jason grabs her, pulls her on her.
And
She
I-
wakes up in the hospital, right?
I called him Frog Boy before. Now, did she maybe say my special son Jason or something? Is there any indication that he's handicapped in any way? But then we see him. He is not handicapped. He is already a
He's
zombie,
like all burned up.
essentially.
Yeah, it's kind of deformed.
Yeah.
Skull
He's a little
shape.
monster boy.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
again looks great. I mean, the
Mhm.
makeup looks great.
Designed by Savini.
Yep.
But the fact that
Okay,
this is,
godly.
obviously there's no concept of adult Jason at this point. Like Jason is a kid that died in 1958 in the canon of this movie by itself.
Mhm.
So it's just fascinating.
Or does he come out of the water and is he doing stuff? He's not, obviously, because the POV.
And
it's
then
like it's
going back
family.
in, Mike.
What does that
He
imply?
swims back to the bottom. Does he live there?
Well,
and lays
here's-
his little eggs.
Yeah.
Right. Here's how I would have changed the ending, because obviously she wakes up in the hospital.
It's
you're
a
like,
dream.
Oh, it was a dream. But they are all dead. Because here's what I would have changed. She wakes up in the hospital. She's like, "Are they all dead?" And they're like, "Dead? What are you talking about? Nobody's dead." She dreamed the whole thing. That's how they should have ended it.
Oh, that would
Rarely
have
the
sucked. I
dream-
hate that.
I think they should just end it when he gets pulled underwater and say, "That's a movie, folks."
Yeah, he's
That's
a
the
monster
perfect,
boy.
the jump scare. Just fuck you guys, go
That-
home.
it
Like,
would
that's
have been wild.
nice. Yeah, because I was,
Yeah.
I got by that jump scare. 'Cause I know
That was a good jump
Sure.
scare. And then
I'm
the
sure you guys
reveal
didn't
of-
see it
well, it
coming.
leaves questions about
dream.
what is Jason, and then in the second movie you could get that. So I don't
Is
like
he
the
interested
hospital
in
scene.
hockey?
I
Right.
do like.
He always
I
liked
do like
hockey.
that it's kind
He
of.
preferred to skate
He
on
was-
the lake, not swim
He
in
was
it.
my boy. He was my little hockey boy. He would skate, not swim or drown.
I do need to watch part 3 to see if there's actually a reason why he starts wearing a hockey mask, or if
There
that's ever
is.
explained.
That's there is.
But I do like how the ending is sort of open ended, where it cuts back to the lake, and you're kind of thinking, "Wait, was there a little boy in the lake or not?"
Yeah, exactly.
Or we get some nice Twin Peaks music, fade out, beautiful.
And I would say extremely worthy of what comes after it. That is a fine little picture, right?
Yeah, just tighten it up a little bit, but again, amateur, like new independent filmmakers, nobody's. Again, this is kind of breaking new ground. We've had so many things that have copied this and done it, like more streamlined or whatever. So it's easy to criticize this, but it's truly one of the pioneers. So it's going to have rough edges. So for what it is,
yeah, definitely. And another moment I like regarding Jason is when I think one of the girls even hears a kid saying, "Help me," right? And
she runs out
in the rain. So you're hearing this little kid's voice. So I like the mystery of like, is there like a little ghost kid out there or not? And then later you hear obviously Mrs. Voorhees speaking as her son saying, "Kill them all, mommy," or whatever.
Kill them all, mommy.
Help me,
but you do hear a little boy's voice before that, and the one of the counselors goes to kind of investigate it. And I like that.
It's not her.
Right.
That is interesting. I always forget about that.
Because I forget how that gets resolved because there's so many things happening slowly that I forgot.
Right.
that voice
during
was
the whole Monopoly rainstorm stuff.
You got to go pee, that whole thing,
But again, and the fact that Alice is maybe imagining this little boy coming out of the water, maybe there's some kind of ghost thing going on. I like the open-endedness of it, even though it doesn't really make sense. It's like an interesting kind of twist on a slasher movie. Bringing some paranormal, supernatural aspect into it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Jason becomes eventually. But the idea that, she just had a nightmare in the boat because of her ordeal and manifested this vision of Jason versus is there a
and would you go sail out in the middle of the lake on a canoe right after decapitating a lady who killed a bunch of people?
I don't know what I would do after that, honestly. Maybe I would.
I think I'd try to drive the Jeep. I'm pretty sure. I'd look for a keys or something.
Yeah. I think we needed one scene with Mrs. Voorhees checking in on the campers like a normal person in the Jeep after the first kill.
It is such a left turn.
Just like, oh, you're setting
establish
up
the
camp.
character
Be careful.
in the beginning.
And literally the guy with the mustache, you don't say what it is, but the start to that scene at Mike is him going like, we always really appreciate you coming here after what happened. It means a lot to us or something. And she's like, of course, I love dropping off lunches for the kids and, good luck this year. And, it's just like, oh, great. Yeah, that would just be like the
good to have it reopened.
Yeah.
Yes.
And even the first kill, the hitchhiker girl, it doesn't make sense that she would pick her up and then not speak because we see her speaking so much to Alice at the end. But then she just silently drives this girl and then eventually kills her. Like the girl starts panicking because they go past the camp entrance and then she's like, please stop. But she doesn't say anything to her because obviously she can't, or that would, reveal who she is.
Right.
But I was like, it didn't work for me.
No, it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I do like that she jumps out of the car, gets her throat slit, and then Pamela puts her back in the car, sitting upright, just to be a jump scare later for Alice.
Yeah.
Get her back in the vehicle. I'll drive it around town.
The throat slit really does. It looks so good.
It does look great, man. Yeah, and we get two of those in this. So, establish the character a little bit more because I think Pamela's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you set her up, as a local, when you meet all these locals in the beginning, people are warning them not to go to the camp.
I'll give you a ride to Camp Crystal Lake. I know that place. Boom.
Yeah.
There you go.
Instead, you get this other, local guy that drives someone into town. And it's just like, if you're setting up all these locals, you're setting up Crazy Ralph as a red herring. Yeah. You could easily set up Pamela, and then the payoff would be so much better at the end when it's.
But you would, because you would never see it coming because she's a woman, Jacob. If she was the kindly old woman and she did have the dumb little bit that I just suggested of like, sorry about the tragedy or whatever, you would just assume it was the killings of the counselors in 1958. You'd think like, oh, she was a mom of one of those people. That sucks.
Oh, you worked there.
Yeah, exactly. You would not assume she was the drowned kid's mom.
Even just to say, my son used to go to that camp and I used to work there. Bad stuff happened, but they're reopening it. Good,
I think you could fix this movie a lot by just introducing her as a character earlier, because when she shows up, it's just like, this is the first time we see this character, so it's less of a reveal that she's the killer because we've never met her before, right?
It's just a what the fuck. Like I can even see again. We're rewriting history. We're playing Monday night quarterback, amateur quarterback. Like if she then is acting very sweet while driving the girl there, but then the owner of the camp is like, get the fuck out. You're always giving us shit. Like there's an adversarial relationship that we don't know the history behind. Like the owner is not happy that Pamela's there. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. And then we have a lot
Yeah.
of three candidates now. You know, the owner,
Right.
Yes,
Pamela,
that's
and Ralph.
interesting.
That's how I would run it.
Again, there are some moments that I like in here, but there are definitely things that could have been done better.
And it's extremely spaced out when the high points hit. There's a lot of downtime in between. That's the other thing. And
Yeah.
it's the 80s, movies are paced, but 90 minutes and it feels like it's 2 hours. So that's the
Right.
problem.
Like
But,
again, that snake scene, decapitating a snake with a machete, foreshadowing to her decapitating
Wow.
Mrs. Voorhees. I like that, even if I don't like them killing a snake on screen.
Not a
but-
real snake, but yeah,
Yeah.
okay. There's a good metaphor there.
So there's a little bit of foreshadowing, and there's some moments. Again, Crazy Ralph was an inspired choice to have him just randomly show up. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
But then there's a
Twice.
lot of downtime in the middle where it's just like not really working for me.
No thanks.
And even the kills, they're short, they're spaced out, and then there's ones that just happen off screen. So there's like a lot of like it's short little bits of, you know, excitement and then nothing.
And also to compare it to Halloween, you don't see who's killing these people the entire movie, which is different because you see Michael Myers actually killing people in the first Halloween, and you see him in his mask in the beginning. Here it's some faceless person killing a bunch of people, and then at the end you reveal, which is of course important for the reveal, but it's just less, I guess, interesting to watch when you don't know who's killing them.
Yeah. On a second viewing, having watched this twice, seeing the 1958 scene again, like that makes sense. Like when I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why they're not panicking. It's just the cook, like walking up to these kids like that. That's why
we
like,
weren't doing
we
anything.
weren't doing nothing. It's like, okay, so that starts to track, I guess. But yeah, there's definitely, this inspired a long running franchise. It's not the best entry in the franchise, but it has some of the most interesting ideas at the very end. So that's
interesting.
That's going for it.
Yeah. It's so much of what the franchise would be known for is not in this movie compared to Halloween, where like everything about Michael Myers is kind of set up in the first movie to where like that's what they would follow for every film after this, like his look, his weapon of choice, et cetera, et cetera. Here, we don't get Hockey Mask Jason until the third movie in the franchise. And we don't get Jason the Killer until the sequel, which I wanted to mention because I did start rolling into the sequel, watching it, because I was like, all right, let me watch the actual Jason introduction. I didn't finish it because I started watching it after I just went right into it after finishing this movie. This movie is 95 minutes long. Friday the 13th Part 2 is 85 minutes long.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And it's an hour and 25 minutes, and the first 10 minutes are mostly, like Halloween Part 2, flashbacks.
That's right.
Of scenes of
there's
Friday
a
the
lot
13th
to set
1.
up.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
If you had
We're
to
making a
recount
big leap.
this story to somebody, yeah.
Right. But I kind of fast forward because like I literally just watched this like 5 minutes ago. But it does start opening on our hero, our Jamie Lee Curtis of the first movie, Alice.
Amy.
And then there's a whole
Amy
intro.
Lee. No, Alice. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Alice Lee.
And so I watched basically the intro starring her, which I won't spoil anything that happens in Part 2, but there's an interesting hook that I was like, all right, I need to watch the rest of this, but I was tired, so I went to bed, but I will be finishing it.
I'm gonna do that too for Spooktober. I'll see how deep I get.
Because you're gonna watch some more,
2, and I'll roll to 3.
That's great.
Let's get to the origin at least. I'm curious how this plays out now that I have all the information. You know,
I want to talk about that intro, but I don't want to spoil it for you, Mike, because you haven't seen it yet. And
no, I've seen it.
It's pretty.
I've seen the Baghead one. That's like one of my favorite Jasons.
But you remember what happens in the very beginning,
right? Yeah, like that's how we're figuring it out. So
you
get a lot of sweater lore and stuff too. But yeah, dog.
Well, the way that movie ends is really cool. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an hour and 15 minutes. Once you cut out the flashbacks, it's literally an hour and 15 minutes, which I think is about as short as a movie can be to be a feature film.
I appreciate it though.
Yeah,
all killer, no filler. That's where that comes from.
Hey, hell yeah. Well, how about this then? Let's go ahead. We'll talk our final thoughts, and we'll talk maybe the legacy of this, and maybe we can convince Jacob to spoil for the listeners the second movie. But we'll figure that out on the other side. This Friday 13th. Normies Like Us.
We're back here on Normies Like Us. We're wrapping it up on the holiday to kill all holidays. Friday the 13th here
That's right.
on Normies Like Us. It's not Freddy. It's not Michael. It's not
Wednesday
even
13th.
really Jason. That's right. It's Frog Boy Jason and his mommy.
Here's
That's right.
Pamela. That's right.
Which I didn't realize now seeing this for the first time that Friday the 13th is Jason's birthday. And that's the connection to that date. Because
Oh.
she says, it's my son's birthday today at the end.
And
so-
what is the holiday? What's
It's not a
his real
holiday.
life?
It's just his birthday.
No. But what is the supernatural?
It's like
there's
a bad luck.
alignment. to
Yeah,
all
it's
the
like an
days.
old.
It's just the
like
13.
a legend. Yeah, it's
It
like
has to be Friday the
an old
13th. 'cause I
wives'
think it has
tale.
something to do with Black Friday. You know, Jesus stuff. So a Friday the
Yeah,
13th.
when we get all those deals, Mike. No, I know what you're talking about.
I don't know for
all
sure.
the
If I was
savings.
speculating.
Well, 13
Yeah.
is kind of like a satanic number, I guess, because it's I don't know why, but
Well, if I'm speculating, we have Black Friday, Jesus on the cross, and 12 disciples and one Jesus. So that would be 13.
isn't
so
and
maybe
isn't
there's something
13
to
like
do with
considered
that.
an unlucky number?
Yeah, there's unlucky 13.
Is it something about the
so-
number of days in a week since it only occurs in like 1 month a year? Is it like a harvest moon or something?
I'm
You know what I
gonna
mean?
look
One of
it
those
up.
weird lunar cycles. Maybe.
Could be. I also wanted to ask you this.
Yeah.
I
Speaking
have
of
played Strip Monopoly.
questions about things in this movie, Kevin
Yes.
Bacon, right? We all know Kevin Bacon.
Would I kiss him? Yes. The answer is yes.
Would I kiss him? We all know, of course, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Where you try to connect an actor to Kevin Bacon by things they've starred in. Everybody knows
Mhm.
that. But how did that start? And why did they choose Kevin Bacon to be the representative in that game? That's what I want. I know he's
That's
been in a
such a
lot of
good question.
movies with a lot of different actors, but so have a lot of actors, right?
And specifically, Jacob, Will Smith is in a film called 6 Degrees of Separation, I believe. Is
Mm.
Kevin Bacon in that movie? Is that sort of like a joke on that? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I think it came about in the 90s. That's when it started to get popular. And like it's like a game that it's like a party game where you can say name an actor.
I used to do it in college all the time, just like
Yeah.
mentally, like, what can you?
But why Kevin Bacon? Just because he's been in a lot of different kinds of movies with a lot of different actors?
Because it rhymes with separation.
Yeah,
Sort of.
I guess that's true.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe he is just in a lot of different genres and stuff, you know, Footloose, Tremors, this. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
I don't know. I feel like there's actors that have been in more things than Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
When his daughter starred in what was that film called?
Smile or
Smile.
was it called
I was
Smile?
gonna call it Suicide Yourself, or like kind of whatever it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe it is called Smile. I remember him very much being like Mike, like, I got my start in horror with Friday the 13th, but not giving Tremors any love. And I remember kind of being bugged by that.
Yeah. No.
Well, Tremors
I
is a
love
little
Tremors.
later, so if he's talking about getting a start, in horror,
If he's saying
Yeah.
start, you're right. Yeah.
and then
That's
he
true.
was in a slasher
is
type
peak.
movie recently called They Slash Them, which is basically Friday
yeah.
the 13th at an LGBT conversion
right.
camp. So it's got like
Have you seen
Whoa.
that?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but it's an interesting premise,
Whoa.
right?
I haven't seen that either.
Yeah.
How do they spell it? Oh, they did use the word
They
slash.
slash them.
them.
Oh,
I think that's
okay.
very clever.
But it's
That's
like a
why
gay
I'm supposed to
conversion
pronounce that.
camp, and
Yeah.
yeah, so it's got some like political current events stuff. So I think that
Right.
sounds interesting. Yeah.
No, that is interesting. I did look up Friday the 13th, you know. Part of
Yes.
it is the crucifixion in Christianity. Jesus' crucifixion. There was 13 people in the upper room and lower room of wherever he was doing the Last Supper. Also,
of course.
just generally, though, Friday the 13th is not really a thing till the 19th century, according to Wikipedia. There was a play a guy wrote in 1834 where something said, I was born on Friday, December the 13th, 1813. So doubled down on the 13s there, and nothing is but misfortune, whatever. So it's just kind of a mix of 13 being bad luck and some general, I don't know.
Seems like anytime there's like historically evil stuff, it always traces back to Christianity somehow, right?
The devil.
Right.
What
Yeah,
would
so
Pazuzu
Do we
say about
have
this?
do we have any holidays left that we could use if we wanted to make one?
Well, Joe did show us that we have Saturday the 14th came out a year after this. So I've never
Amazing.
seen that.
Yeah.
That looks incredible.
Yeah.
But another
It's a
holiday.
very funny movie.
I don't think there's any holidays that have not been made a horror movie.
Groundhog
Do you guys know
Day?
what Devil's Day is?
Well, obviously, there's the Bill
a,
Murray movie, but
Right.
Yeah,
No,
Devil's
what's
Day is
Devil's
the
Day?
day before Halloween. I think they mainly celebrate it in Detroit, but it's when you're supposed to do like criminal mischief. You're
Mischief
supposed to
night.
Sam
like
Hain.
burn down buildings. Yeah,
We
totally.
had it Mischief Night in Ohio. Yeah, yeah.
Mischief
Oh, yeah,
night.
Mischief
Okay.
Night. That's the
Happy
trick,
Death
and then
Day
you get the
takes-
treat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and they're saying Happy Death Day is a Groundhog's Day like movie, but it's not. Set
And
on
that's like your
Groundhog's Day.
Yes,
birthday.
it's a
That's
Groundhog's
what's good
Day
about that.
type movie. Right?
That's not. So maybe
Yeah.
that we could do a
Yeah.
Groundhog's, but I'm sure somebody's done a Black Sheep style Groundhog's Day parody,
Yeah.
right?
Someone should make a
Yeah.
January 11th, 1990. That would be a great day to have.
This is a little off, but did you guys see there's a horror movie coming out that's like a slasher film that instead of the slaughtering, it's called the slothering, and it's about a killer
Yes.
sloth, and it says death will come slowly to you.
That's amazing.
Even with
I
a
was-
sloth being your killer, it's probably paced better than this.
Yeah.
Well, very true.
I was
Savage.
thinking like a Groundhog horror day would have to involve like the groundhog being the killer
Yes.
somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some-
And
Somehow,
you relive
somehow.
it. You relive it so you can escape.
Yeah, stop.
Right.
No.
He's in control. It's you're in hell, and that's the purgatory.
Yeah.
It's every day this groundhog chases you down until
Damn
you
Right.
Groundhog.
Yeah, we can say, St. Patrick's
Writes
Day. You
itself.
can say Leprechaun is a St. Patrick's horror day, I guess.
100%. 100%.
Halloween 3 sort of.
Yeah, Black,
Yeah,
Black
technically,
Christmas,
Mike, it's a
obviously.
bunch of Irish witches.
Oh, you have Silent Night, Deadly Night too. So
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Garbage
yes.
Day.
And so many
Krampus.
Christmas slaughter.
Yeah.
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 So I don't know how many other holiday ones. There's Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
So
Thanksgiving. Yep.
that might have been an Eli Roth parody in the Grindhouse.
Thanksgiving.
No. There's one where it's truly about a killer turkey that comes back to life to kill you, but there is an upcoming film that is the what were those things called, Mike? The
Grindhouse?
Death Proof and Grindhouse. Thank you.
Grindhouse,
Yes,
yeah,
the
yeah.
Grindhouse trailer
Yes.
that he made is getting adapted to feature length. That is coming out this
Oh,
November.
okay. Like
and it's
That's
kind of
very
a
funny.
Black Friday parody, the commercial way, the way I was joking about earlier.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, Black Friday horror movie that happens while people are going crazy trying to get deals on TV.
I think that's so
Damn.
funny.
yeah.
That is funny. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
And then the sequel, Black Friday the 13th.
Cyber Monday.
Okay,
Cyber
Valentine's
Monday.
Day.
We don't have a Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday is good. I was gonna say Valentine's Day with a Cupid killer, like arrows through your head and shit.
Instead of
That was
making you
cool.
fall in love, they just make you fall into your
Dead.
grave.
Hey,
It's
yeah.
That's the
great.
tagline.
Wow,
I love it.
like it. Nice. It's
Wow.
it's only for people who aren't in love. you know?
Yeah. They don't make
April
enough
Fool's Day. Have you guys seen that?
holiday-themed horror movies.
I haven't seen
anymore.
April Fool's Day.
That
no.
is a
April Fool's
slasher
Day.
film.
Right.
Oh, nice.
I haven't seen that.
Now, Cyber Monday. I
Happy
think we
Death
could get
Day
cornered.
is based around like a birthday, so that's kind of
Yeah.
a holiday.
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's National Donut Day. Maybe doesn't have one yet. I don't know, some of those weird national holidays, maybe.
That'd be a
there's like
great
national
ad
everything
campaign
day
for
now.
Dunkin' right now. Ben Affleck fucking killing people.
Yeah.
National Donut Day, and I'm the killer.
Mother's Day
Mhm.
or Father's Day. they could do
Mother's
something
Day.
with, right?
Oh man, that's good.
Nick Cage had that mom and
Hereditary.
dad serial killer movie
Mm.
where they go crazy and start slashing people. I don't know, maybe.
Labor
Maybe.
Day. It's just a bunch of pissed off working class
Right.
killers. I
That's
don't know.
Josh Brolin
Um,
having sex with Kate Winslet.
Shit, yep,
That's right.
There you go, Brolin.
I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about Kevin
Kinda winding
Bacon. I
down.
wanted to mention
Mhm.
Mrs. Voorhees herself, Betsy
Mhm.
Palmer. Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Veteran
was-
actor.
Yes, and I was reading about the casting of this movie a little bit. Obviously, they didn't have a bunch of money to throw around or anything, but they wanted to get kind of a big name actress for this role. I think like Joan Collins they offered it to, like
Mhm.
different, like kind of against type, obviously roles for like a middle-aged woman. But I think she turned it down because she's like, "What, you want me to play like some killer or something? That's not what I like. That's not really my
It's
thing."
basically Mommy Dearest.
Yeah.
Something
Right.
she did before. So
But some
Mhm.
different, I guess, kind of 50s and 60s actresses. A couple bigger names that turned it down, and then Betsy Palmer they did finally get. And I was reading about her approach to it, which is really interesting because she was like, "Well, as an actor of the Stanislavski method, I really went into the, what makes this character tick and stuff." And I was like,
Right.
probably didn't need to do that much for this role. but
wow.
I'm
no,
glad
it
you
shows.
did.
It
Yeah.
shows. It
Good.
definitely. It's not.
Yeah.
Not helping. Yeah.
No, she's probably the best actor in this movie, I'd say.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%. She's the only actor in this movie. Besides
Yeah.
Kevin
Well,
Bacon.
Kevin Bacon's in it, but he's not
I-
really Kevin
He's
Bacon.
not
I don't
acting
think he's
well.
an actor.
This
yeah,
film
I
just
think
turned
he's just a guy
180
who's like,
degrees.
you imagine you're having sex with your girlfriend. She gets up, she says, I have to go pee. She leaves, and you're like, I'm gonna fucking smoke this joint. My girlfriend's gonna come back. We're gonna have sex. This is the best night of my life. And then an arrow goes through your fucking head.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep. But I know she's definitely the best thing about this movie is when Pamela Voorhees is on screen.
She should be in more of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're doing Spooktober. We're going to be doing spooky stuff the rest of the month. I don't know if I have really many other final thoughts besides iconic, but I think this grew into be something greater than its humble origins, whereas Halloween is something that never got better than the original. So this has room to grow.
They never.
It's the opposite of Halloween.
They didn't innovate on the formula as much as this franchise does. I mean, when you're thinking about, there's a movie where Jason goes to space in the future and kills a bunch of people on a space station, and that's the same franchise as this movie somehow. Like, how do you get from point A to point B?
Well, he also fights a burned up pervert janitor, Jacob. I don't know if you remember that.
Right. That's
of course, yeah. Freddy versus Jason. They never had a Freddy versus Jason versus Michael, right?
No, or Ash
versus Leatherface,
the big one.
Yeah.
We used to do
It's
that
just a
in Mortal
rights
Kombat,
thing,
I guess.
Again, Pinhead would win because he's kind of just like a god, right?
Yeah, he can
he's
do
a
like
weird demigod.
supernatural things. But I mean, all these killers are like unkillable supernatural beings eventually, right? Like Jason is just as indestructible as Michael Myers.
Freddy doesn't exist.
Point. Yeah, Freddy's like
but
a
Michael
dream
Myers
warrior.
never fully becomes a zombie dog. He never goes full supernatural, other than like
he shot a bunch of times.
That like a rune of I know, but
it depends on
he does. God damn, yes, whatever.
The Jamie arc, maybe Paul Rudd arc, maybe. Yeah, the Paul Rudd arc.
Yeah,
Jamie does cut his head off in H2O, right? At the end of H2O, but then they decided to bring him back. Yeah.
Can I throw out one of my
they tricked us.
That's right.
Just favorite recommendations while we're talking about this. You said Goes to Space. That is probably the deep cut.
That's Jason
That's
X.
the most absurd. That is Jason X. I will say A New Beginning, which I believe is 5, was originally pitched as Jason versus Carrie, the Stephen King psychic little girl character.
Oh.
The deal fell through. They keep the plot. So it is about him, of course, fighting a psychic teenage girl, and it rules. So I prefer this franchise to Halloween because it just gets more fun. I understand that Halloween 1 is a better movie.
Yeah. I would say, speaking of Carrie, by the way, I think this movie was also had some inspiration from Carrie, which came out, I want to say maybe the year before, or maybe
77, because it's Star Wars. It's De Palma. I mean, they interviewed kids in cast at the same time, basically, for Star Wars.
But obviously, that was very influential on horror movies at the time as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see the total number here for movies.
I will say about Jason X.
Oh, it's all Mike. Sorry, just real quick to cut you off, Jacob. Mike said he's looking at the total number of films. That's the horrible irony of it. There's 12 films. They need to make one more movie. And it's so weird that they haven't. Obviously, the rights are super weird, where now I believe LeBron James owns them.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's get him in the movie.
Space Slash.
I was just going to say about Jason X, not a good movie.
Great movie is what you're about to say.
Yeah, great movie. It does have one of my favorite kills ever in any horror movie, which is, again, it's in the future in a space station. And Jason, one of the first kills, I think, when he first appears to them, is he takes a woman's face and like freezes it with dry ice,
or like liquid nitrogen.
Smashes it, liquid nitrogen, and then smashes it into a bunch of pieces.
Resurrected.
And I thought I did watch that when I was younger. I was like, that's an incredible kill.
My favorite kill in that movie is when there's a hologram, like, of the campers. He's on a holodeck.
The sexy girls.
It cuts to him beating one of them to death with the other one in a sleeping bag, like as a bludgeoning implement.
And I will say, in the remake, there is an homage to that where he just picks up a woman in a sleeping bag and smashes her against a tree. Yeah. That is my favorite kill in the entire franchise.
It's also how they took something goofy and made it fucking brutal for that remake. Yeah. That remake's very good.
I'm interested to see the remake because I don't think I've seen it. It does seem like Jason. Yeah, go ahead.
To pitch to you, watch 1, 2, and 3, then watch the remake, because it is a remake of 1, 2, and 3. It's a very clever conceit.
Okay. I'm really excited to do that.
But I
that.
mean, it can't be as good as the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. I mean, you know how I feel
I
about those.
forgot how much you like those.
No, I do think the Jason that remake may be the best horror remake ever done.
I think so.
I'll check it out. I mean,
it takes something
you've seen the
messy and makes
Jackie
it
Earl
streamlined.
Haley,
puts
Freddy
it
Krueger.
together.
It's better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Earl
I
Haley,
think so.
Nightmare on
I
Elm
think
Street.
so. I think so.
My problem with Jason, just as a concept, is that I do think he's too much like Michael Myers. Like, he's so Michael Myers. Like, he has a mask. Michael
Boiler
Myers has a
suit.
mask. He's
Has
a
a
big
knife.
guy in a boiler suit. Yeah,
It's
like,
which way do they hold it?
change it up
Vertical
a
or
little bit.
downward. Yeah.
Right. Which I think kind of leads to my final thoughts, because this is what I appreciate so much about this movie, is that it is different. Like, it's not just some guy. It's Mrs. Voorhees, the mother who goes insane after her son drowns, and that's a much more interesting concept for a killer than just
another Michael Myers, a derivative of Michael Myers. Let's call
which
it
is what Jason becomes. And so I guess that's always been my problem with this franchise. I have nothing against it. I just think Halloween, and I don't even like most of the later Halloween movies.
No one does.
I love H2O.
But maybe I should watch.
love H2O.
H2O is good. One of the best later ones.
That was high in my ranks. I got Letterboxd.
Yeah.
I don't think we did Letterboxd.
Yes, Doc. Yes.
But I guess I'm wondering, should I do what we did with Halloween 2 years ago and watch every in this franchise?
By the time we get
Spooktober?
to our Spooktacular, which is of course the final episode of Spooktober that we do, Normies,
Coming out on
will be-
Halloween.
Yes,
Yes, there's
checking
5
in on
weeks
all
in
the stuff we
October
go through.
this year, so we got 5 weeks of Spooktober.
If you come to that episode loaded for bear with the fact that you watched 12 Jason films and you read me your rankings, I will be so fucking
It's gonna
happy,
blow your
dog.
mind. Yeah.
Yes.
I might join
sure
you
I'll
on that
pick
journey.
Do
I'll
it,
pick
guys.
the Rob Zombie
Do it, guys.
Halloween of this franchise
Yeah.
somehow, and you'd be like, "You like that one? Yeah, that'll probably happen."
Yeah, that would be Takes Manhattan. I would be very curious to hear what you think of that. That universally
yeah.
considered the 8th film the least liked of the entire franchise. So
Yeah. Oh man.
I think
and
that's
I think maybe Joe's
it's gotta
favorite.
happen.
yeah.
I've seen a clip that I think Joe likes to share
A
a lot,
radio
which
clip.
is a punk like listening to music with a boombox and then being killed in a very funny way.
Gets his head literally punched off by
Off of his-
Jason. Yes.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Well, I guess that's going to have to happen this year.
I
No,
love
might-
it. I love
I
it.
might consider that too. They're all going to be 90 minutes anyway. But I definitely, bare minimum, listeners, watch this movie, watch 2, watch 3, and do the remake if you're curious about more of kind of the lore that about Friday the 13th and Freddy and Pamela. I think the twist with her is equivalent from 1980 to the way we felt watching *Malignant*.
Yes.
It just gets. It's so like, what is happening? What movie?
It turns
am I in?
into camp so fast. Like it's fairly straightforward, and then all of a sudden it's super campy and interesting.
Yeah.
Think about if in Psycho it wasn't revealed to be the twinky little son and the skeleton in the wheelchair just stood up and like attacked you. You'd be like, ah,
Yeah, right.
like that level.
I was thinking about it. This movie is basically a reverse Psycho.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah. There you go.
Or
All
Anthony
right.
Perkins.
Yeah. Well, Camp
We should do
Crystal
a
Lake.
Psycho episode. We've never done that. Or a
Yeah, we
Hitchcock
could do
episode.
that.
We should do a Hitchcock episode. That's really
That's
interesting.
a good next October time.
It's good
I think.
Spooktober, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Well-
for this time, we've exercised some demons. Now we've gone to Camp Crystal Lake. Next week, we're just going to go get some candy a little early, before
Sure,
Halloween.
nothing,
Go talk to the
nothing wrong
Candyman.
could happen there. Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
this is one I'm really scared. So let's see.
Right.
Let's see how we do, boys.
Just don't say
Yeah.
his name too many times.
Ah,
But yeah.
How do you feel about gentrification? These are all be questions that are
How do you feel about
Brought
Ted
up.
Raimi, Sam Raimi's brother?
Right. No,
A
I
rare
feel,
Michigan-made film, so he's in the first scene. Yeah, sorry.
Hell
Tony
yeah.
Todd.
No, I like when horror also tries to do something social commentary wise. Texas Chainsaw does that, even though people don't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to do the Candyman films as well. Yeah.
Should be
Trick or
a
treat.
good time. Yep.
Shout
I'm looking
out to-
forward to it.
Yep. I just want to shout out a Japanese metal band called Crystal Lake. They make
Yes.
very good music.
Yo,
They
that's
sing in English,
hilarious.
and they're excellent. So Crystal Lake.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know them as well. Yeah.
If you ever really want to blow your mind, I believe it's called Crystal Lake Memories or Camp Crystal Lake Memories. It's an HBO documentary. I think it's like 7 or 8 or maybe even like 13 or 12 hours long, where they interview everybody who's made everything. And it's based on a pretty famous coffee table book. So if you're a mega fan of this franchise.
Wow, I'm seeing it here. Yeah, that's awesome. They got everybody. And I'm a Kane Hodder Jason guy. Many different actors have played that role,
Sure.
So I don't know. That would be interesting
Corey
to watch.
Feldman appears in these series at one point and he plays an amazing character.
I think there's something fascinating about after just watching this one, because it is a simpler, cleaner movie, and this will be my final thoughts. Because seeing this documentary just hit me. It's like I am kind of fascinated in just the lore of this franchise. Like that's why I want to go to 2 and 3 and the remake, and just even seeing these interviews, I'm like, it does end up being derivative Friday the 13th or Jason or Michael Myers. Sorry, long day, but
Yeah.
there's something about it. It has a charm, and it starts with Pamela. If Pamela didn't exist and it was just hockey mask guy, the franchise is like pretty fucking boring. But the fact that that's always there in the background, she's always there. That's what makes it work. So
I mean, at
shout
the
out
end
to
of
Have
the
you
Pamela.
day,
guys seen Jason Lives? Do you know how he comes back from the
I
dead?
haven't seen Jason
No.
Lives. No,
not the
I've
the
never
The lore
finished
is
all that lore
fascinating.
either.
yeah. I'm excited to see how they explain it in part 2.
Yeah,
But yeah,
might
at the
fire
end
that
of the
up
day,
today.
like I do like that they tried to make a Halloween knockoff and made it weirder than they could. Like having this twist just makes it so much more interesting and worthy of watching to me. That if it was just Jason as we know him, I just wouldn't be as into it. So I give it, not a very good movie, but I enjoyed it in a weird way.
We keep relating to what it would be. It's like truly, Jacob, if in Halloween, Donald Pleasance in that last scene turned to him and was like, no, when I say he really was the boogeyman, like, we'll take the mask off. Look, he's a monster. And you'd be like, oh, and like it would just like cut to black. And you're like, wait, he was like a monster the whole time? Like, what was going on?
I don't know. It's open-ended. It was maybe a dream. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, now I'm thinking.
Yeah, but important movie. Just again, everything's copying everything. But I'm glad we watched it.
Me too.
I had never seen it, so I don't know.
I guess next year we're gonna have to keep going on the staples and do Nightmare on Elm Street.
Finally watch that burn up pedophile. Wow.
I'm least interested in that series, but I could do it. Bitch.
He's not my friend. It's when I think of these guys, Freddy's the one guy where I'm like, I don't even want you like coming near me, pal. Like you fucking get out of here, dude.
I don't even want to own your DVDs.
Well, he's interesting because
I know what you're up to.
Jason and Michael are so quiet, like they don't talk, and he's the opposite. He's wisecracking, making puns.
How are you?
And that's 1984, so things have been changing in the horror landscape. Yeah.
Are you done here? Any trash I can take away? Just imagine him as your actual janitor.
Well, we had time to have shitty sequels from the other main franchises that made it okay to invent a character like Freddy. I'm not sure if we had Child's Play yet either, but we had the bad sequels that were like, yep, these are goofy.
Yeah.
Watch Sleepaway Camp, man.
Yeah, I'd throw that in there. We will be doing our run through, but yeah. Happy Friday the 13th, normies.
Happy Friday the 13th. Happy Spooktober. I'm excited to be in the middle of it.
Woo!
And,
yeah.
It's time. Spooks.
I've never been more scared in my whole life. Thank you.
Yeah. Spooks abound. And keep listening along. Hit us up with your Halloween recommendations. If you're watching something dope on Shudder right now, and you're like, if you guys liked Friday the 13th, have you seen blah, blah, blah? We want to know that. We want you to contact us at normies_like_us, or you can also rate, review, subscribe along with that comment. That helps out the podcast quite a bit. And of course, watch our YouTube videos as well.
That's right.
No hockey.
Thanks, normies.
You won't get to see my great sweater that I definitely had if you don't watch the YouTubes.
Yes. And let me say this. If you write in and say, Colin, will you play Strip Monopoly with me? There's a chance I might. There's a chance I might. You go ahead, you write that in.
It's easy. I'll be the shoe. You don't pay rent, you pay with clothes.
That's
Where
right.
My 500s, they're right there.
Do not pass go.
Monopoly is such a complex game. Adding any rule on top of it would make it unbearable.
Yeah, strip Monopoly. When do you even what
point do you strip here?
No, it takes so long. Like no one's going to be titillated. It's like I'm just done
But do you
playing
strip
this.
when you land on someone else's property, or
when
you
pull
is the actual action of stripping?
Yeah. You went
you
to jail.
Don't get your clothes back with the community
off.
chest. Yeah.
Yes. No.
Normies, if you know the exact rules,
Wow.
let us know, please.
Let us
We're very
know.
curious.
Very
Otherwise, we
important.
have been your counselors.
Uh-huh.
This is what do I want to be in charge of? This is archery Colin. I taught that little asshole how to make that joke at that girl, and I was like,
There
if
you
you
go.
really want to impress girls, shoot an arrow at them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost killed him. Yeah, potentially harm them.
absolutely. This is head of canoe shaving. I left my machete next to the canoes. Counselor Mike.
Well, you just killed that snake, Counselor Mike.
No.
All of us at camp were like, Jesus, you didn't have to do that.
I didn't have a great upbringing. I'm sorry.
And this is, I guess this will be head lifeguard wearing only a Speedo, Kevin Jakin. That's
Hell
right.
yeah.
Hey, quit that running. No horseplay.
Oh
Kids,
my gosh.
better watch out.
Thanks,
That's right.
Normies. See you later.
Late,
Bye.
ta ta ta. Bye.
Bye.